evening, everybody. I hope you're all well. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name is Pam McEleney and I work with Donegal Travellers Project. I am one of a group of people from different services across the county who are known as the Parent Support Champions, which is a TUSA-led initiative. I am joined this evening by Michelle Maguire as well, who's also a Parent Support Champion, and she's from Florida Youth Service. The Parent Support Champion project is about supporting parents by providing them with evidence-based information, and we do this through promoting key messages for parents and running events like this webinar. So if you want more information on parenting, you can go to Parenting 24/7 or mychild.ie. Last year, the Parent Support Champions under the Parent Hub Donegal recorded a number of our talks in an initiative led out by our partner organisation, Lifestart Services. These talks, along with others, can be found on the Parenting platform. And a recording of tonight's talk will also be available on the Parenting platform for about 3 months. So we're delighted to have Christina McEleney with us this evening to deliver the talk. Christina is the Alcohol and Other Drugs Coordinator employed by the Donegal ETB and funded by the Northwest Regional Drug Task Force. Christina has been working in the field of alcohol and other drug education for 16 years. At the end of the session, when Christina's finished, there will be an opportunity for questions. And if you want, you can put them into the Q&A, which is found there at the bottom. And myself or Michelle will read them out at the end and put them to Christina. Finally, we promote all our talks through the Parenting Hub Donegal Facebook page. So if you want to keep up to date with what's going on and what we're offering, give us a like. And without further ado, I will pass you over to Christina.
Thank you very much, Pamela. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to do this session. Just like Pamela said, I'm working in the field now about 16 years, and I suppose my main work is around developing and delivering alcohol and other drug education and training. And that's basically for anybody out there. I've written a couple of third level programs as well in the whole area of alcohol and other drugs. And I've learned a master's program in ATU, and I've been part of the team writing a foundation degree in Northern Ireland as well, all about alcohol and other drugs. So I've been invited to do this session on vaping. And first and foremost, what I want to say is that I'll present you with information. And the information that I present you with, I have gone and looked for it in different places, etc. And what we will do at the end of it, if you're interested in reading further on any of the information that I present, we can send you a list of references on it as well. It's a hot topic at the minute, and indeed it is something that, everybody's curious about and they want to find out more about it. So the information I present is not an opinion of mine or anything like that. So we'll go through and we'll have a wee look at what we're finding out about vaping. So they originally were called e-cigarettes. They're around longer than we think. There is a history to the whole development of these particular products that goes back a number of decades, believe it or not. But nowadays we have such products in place such as our e-cigs, our vapes, our vape pens, dab rings, tanks, mods, pod mods, electronic nicotine delivery system. So they had different names as well, and in different countries they may be referred to, and we have colloquial nicknames on them too. And indeed, I think one of the nicknames that we've really settled on is vapes. So everybody knows what we're talking about when we're talking about vapes. So the literature that I had consulted in putting this particular presentation together, I had a look at journals in different areas that are looking at this topic. And I want to re-emphasize that piece. These are literally kind of only around a couple of decades, and therefore we don't have a huge longevity in the research around these particular products and what the long-term effects on the human species will turn out to be. So that's where we're at with it. So there's different disciplines that are having a look at the effects of vaping and, the chemical compounds that are in vapes and what kind of effect they have on the human species and on the younger people and, the older people and that type of thing. So here's some of the literature. I looked at Global Pediatrics Journal, the International Journal of Molecular Science, Food and Chemical Toxicology, scientific reports, Nature portfolio, American Lung Association, the Health Research Board, the Royal College of Surgeons Ireland, Johns Hopkins University, Global Public Health, and respiratory research as well. So I've had a look at different pieces of research that have been carried out to date at this point in time, and what those different pieces of research are actually finding out right now. And I suppose, it is something that has taken basically the world by storm, you could say. And hot off the press today, it's amazing that we're doing this presentation this evening, because we had a press release from our Minister for Health, Stephen Donnelly, here, where the Irish government are expected to approve measures to ban the sale and manufacture, import of single-use or disposable vapes in the country. They're causing a lot of problems as far as disposal is concerned, and the fact that there are batteries in them and the way that the batteries can't be removed or replaced and that type of thing. They also want to place restrictions on colours and imagery on the packages and the devices. And that's because colour and image is exceptionally influential when it comes to marketing, and that means on any product at all. And then the Minister of State for Health, Colin Burke, who is, underneath the Minister for Health, and he basically says the proposed law will include regulations about packaging and point of sale display, and the disposal of these products as well, covered in these measures. Now, basically what that means is you have seen over the years the kind of development around, the messages on packaging around cigarettes, the messages on packaging, and then putting them behind the counter and all of. So they're going to kind of use similar measures when it comes to vapes in our shops, and the disposal of our vapes as well. And he also said that they understood specific regulations would be brought in about flavoured vaping products, and it's about making vapes less attractive. And I think the purpose of that is, we do know that our young people are highly influential. So if we can make it less attractive to the younger people, that they may not take it up so easily in the future, would anybody actually argue with that? So the main drive behind the regulations was that many people who used vaping products subsequently moved on to smoking, he said, and Ireland was one of the number of countries in Europe introducing such regulations. And it was a response to the increasing number of people using nicotine inhaling products as well. So what's actually happening as we move on and become more familiar with these products is that we're realising, that they are quite attractive. And one of the precautions that the government feel a responsibility around is to make them less attractive if possible. Now, when the government decide to implement these type of regulations, then they're acting on information and research, and they have a responsibility as far as public health is concerned. So that is why these regulations get introduced. So where are we now with the amount of vapes that are out there? There are so many of them, and there are new ones being developed all the time. But let me give you a wee fact about them. They were developed by a Chinese pharmacist, Tonlik, but the history of them goes back many, many decades before that, where people have trialled these type of devices. But this guy seems to have brought it to market. And they were an alternative to smoking cigarettes. This guy's father actually died through lung cancer. So he had, the vision to develop something that wouldn't be as harmful as cigarette smoking, that there would be less harm caused by using these vaping these atomizers and that, as opposed to smoking actual cigarettes, because we're well aware of all the dangers and all the harms from smoking cigarettes. They're a battery, an atomizer, and a cartridge containing either nicotine or a non-nicotine liquid solution. Originally developed as a harm reduction intervention. So that was the main, I suppose, impotence around the development of these and reaching the market in the end up. However, they very definitely took on more than a life than just an intervention for smoking. It was considered a healthier alternative, and it definitely was considered less risk attributed to it presently than cigarette smoking. So currently there now exists some considerable debate on the topic. Now, as we become more familiar with the use of it, more people are using it, and more people are using it for longer. There's just a few different names of it: Aroma King, Dinner Lady, Elf Bar, IVG Bar, Geek Bar, Vampire Vape, reviews go. And if you went on the internet, You could write reams and reams and reams of different brands and different names, etc. So you could, and this is one that we're quite familiar with. And I think it's one of the terms that really circulated. And that was the price of them, maybe up to a year or two. I'm not sure what the price of them is now, but you know, we have very different types of vapes and some much more expensive than others. There's been an interesting piece of research, I suppose, when we talk about the influence of vapes, particularly when it comes to social media and our younger population and that. So I think that, you know, this particular piece of research, really, it was a review and it looked at quite a few, you know, different pieces of research. And, you know, they looked, eventually 11 articles, you know, had the same type of outcome in them when they had a look at them. And they were basically saying that the marketing stuff through social media has, the studies illustrate the impact on adolescents. And one study showed that daily use of one social media platform among middle school students was associated with a 3.8% increase in the risk of, you know, e-cigarette usage. So they were being influenced, you know, in favor of it. And then another found that an additional hour per day spent on the platform amongst first-year university students was associated with a 4.6% increase in the probability of lifetime e-cigarette use. So one of the major brands that are out there, they actually advertised big vapor clouds and those type of things. And, you know, and we've got to the stage now where it's become an exceptionally sophisticated market. So it has. And that's where we are. And if you think, you know, that anything in our imagination can actually be developed as far as human beings are concerned anyway, but schools, you know, are making an attempt to kind of ban vapes in school premises and on school buses and that type of thing, you know, but it would be very difficult to kind of manage to stamp it out altogether because you can get vapes that actually look like a lipstick. So that could be in a makeup bag of a girl's, no problem at all. And you wouldn't actually really detect that the child was in school with a vape after all. There also are various different other ways of being able to vape. It's becoming very, very convenient. We've got hoodies that, you know, are vapor delivery systems within them, backpacks that have them within them, and headwear that have them within it. This actually is a website where you can buy these things, so hope I'm not marketing for them. But there's also t-shirts that have vaping tubes, you know, there as well. And I just want you to observe something about that actual marketing. If you look at the people, they're happy and they're young and it's very trendy looking, you know, so it's quite influential. And we also have something which I just discovered today, which I wasn't aware of, cloud vaping competitions. So it's taken on a whole new kind of role, and it's a competition and there are prizes to be won in it. So it's interesting. And in Australia, e-cigarette marketing is actually completely prohibited at this point in time. They do not allow e-cigarette marketing. And marketing of e-cigarettes actually relies quite heavily on social media as well at the same time. So the original construction of the constituents of e-liquids contained only 4 chemical entities in the very beginning. So before all these flavors came along and all these different types came along, they may have had nicotine and propene and 2-diol and propene 1,2,3 and water, and maybe 180 discrete chemicals, you know, that might be used in it. And that's from a piece of research from this guy called Kizimoto and others in 2024. So they started off simple enough and became much more complex as time went on. So what we have now, I suppose we have a lot of kind of within the vapes, there may be some volatile organic compounds or maybe human-made chemicals that are used in the, you know, the kind of manufacture pharmaceuticals and that type of thing. There may be ultrafine particles in it, cancer-causing chemicals in it, heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead, and flavorants such as dicetyl. And that's a chemical linked to serious lung disease as well. And that information is available on the HSE website. So everything that I'm saying is not from my opinion. It's from various pieces of information that I have gathered at this point in time. So vaping aerosols contain thousands of unknown chemicals and substances not disclosed by manufacturers, including industrial chemicals and caffeine. And that was a study. That's a quote from a study from Johns Hopkins University whenever they decided to have a look at the contents, etc., of these vapes. And this particular guy, Karsten Prase, and he is the assistant professor in School of Engineering. And he said he has a problem how vaping is being marketed as more healthy. Now, it may have in the past been marketed as more healthy than smoking, but the marketing around it now is that it has less risk possibly than smoking at this point in time. That's what we know about it. However, that might change in 10, 20, 30 years' time. We really don't know yet. He also says, in my opinion, we're just not at the point where we can really say that. So we can't be sure of our information right now as to the long-term effects of vaping. I want to show you a wee video. It's only a couple of minutes long. In fact, it's only 4 minutes long. But this is a real lived experience by a little girl who, as many little girls do, went into school and vapes were available. And I want you to hear her story. And it's only, a number of minutes long. And it's quite a good story.
Can I ask you when you first vaped? What age were you?
9.
You were 9 years old. And why did you first vape?
I was friends with me and my sister went out with a girl who lived at the bottom of my street, and she was 13 and she was using one of them, and she had told me to do it, and then I done it, and then I completely forgot about it again. And then when I went into first year is when I started doing it again, but a lot more.
Like as though you were vaping all the time? Like would you vape at lunchtime, vape after school, before school?
I would share vapes with friends, because we'd put our money together and then keep them, and then she'd hide them in her house and then bring them into school. But then first year I started getting my own. I had my own ones bringing into school.
Were you able to buy them in a shop?
Yeah.
And is it the flavour as well? Like, was it because you're kind of doing something that you shouldn't be doing, or was it actually you were enjoying it and the different flavours and stuff?
The flavours.
And it made you look cool if you're on it as well.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And you make loads of you talk to loads of people in school about it, because be walking past and they'd be like, would you have a puff bar? And you'd be like, yeah, and they'd be like, come to your toilets and give me some.
Wow.
That's
So
what
the way
we
to
did.
make friends and social things with all of this. Mary, let's talk about what actually happened that led to Sarah being in a coma.
Yeah, it happened very quickly. On the Sunday night, Sarah had a bit of a cough, and with her having asthma, it around about this time of year, it's normal for Sarah to get a bit chesty. So she took her inhalers and we gave her the nebulizer. So Sarah went to bed. Now she was up throughout the night coughing. So it was just inhalers, just keeping on top of it. There was no signs of anything else. So it just seemed normal, like maybe it's chest infection starting. And on the Monday morning, I got the three of them up and she'd said, Mum, I don't feel well. So she went back to bed. And I took the two younger ones. And I got them ready. Made Sarah, I'll not be long, I'll bring these into school. And we got maybe about 5 yards, and Sarah rang me, said, Mummy, will you come back? So when I got back, I gave Sarah the inhalers and nebulizer again. After that, she seemed to settle for a bit. So me and her sister and brother were downstairs. And then I shouted up, Sarah, just going to run to the shop, not be long. We weren't away that long when Sarah rang me, and she could hardly breathe, hardly talk, saying, Mummy, I need a doctor or the hospital. At that, I'm only round the corner, I'll be there 2 seconds. And I phoned her daddy as he drives to me, can you take her to the hospital? And it all just unfolded right there. I went and got her sister and the older brother sorted. And I'm getting a text message. I've been in with the nurse. My vitals are low. Oxygen's low. I'll be here a while. And then within what felt like minutes, I don't even know how long it was, her daddy, you may hurry up, but she's in resus. And from resus, I got in, the doctor showed me the x-rays. One where Sarah's lung was completely not working.
So half her lung?
One lung was just completely, so she was working with just one lung.
Yeah.
The other lung was doing twice the amount of work. They couldn't get her oxygen levels stabled. So basically, ICU. That was the only.
Can you explain what you felt, the text that you got from Sarah?
Yeah. Before I arrived at the hospital, Sarah sent me a text saying, "Mummy, I don't want to die without you." And that's a text nobody wants to get. Doesn't matter whether it's from a child or anybody.
Okay, just want to, I suppose, put a bit of context around that and let you know that that was a very unusual case, okay, and that her wee girl already had a respiratory condition and, you know, then went on to vape and that type of thing. So I suppose in order of protection of our younger people, when there is a respiratory condition there, it might be really worthwhile discussing with the child around, you know, the potential impact of vape on their actual lungs. And on those wee young developing lungs as well, you know, and we do want to make sure that our kids are okay. And you can see from that particular video, you know, the attraction to the use of these types of things. When that wee lassie, you know, explained that, you know, it was cool to do it. There were lots of flavors and it was conversation starter, you know, and, you know, it helped with social interactions as well amongst their peers and that type of thing, you know, so you can see the attraction for younger people for it. So basically, you know, and an updated overview of e-cigarette impact on human health by these guys, biomedical research in 2021. They had a look at everything to do with these vapes and exactly, you know, what they contain and how they operate and that type of thing. And they give a big description on the e-liquid, what would be in it. They give a description then on the device and the material, what's exactly involved in it, and then the heating of these chemicals. And we'll see a video in a minute around the impact of the heating of the different types of, you know, compounds that might be in the vape. And it looks at, you know, the aerosol, the e-liquid components, the flavorants, the glycerol, the propylene, the nicotine, and, you know, other things that may be in the vapes as well. New components as well. They had a look at that. And if you have a wee look at those, you know, propylene oxide, acetylen, acetaldehyde, and formaldehyde, acetamide, and medical particles and silicate particles and stuff like that, you know. So they're a complex mix of stuff as well. They also had a look at the potential harmful effects. And they had a look at, you know, the existence of respiratory irritation, abnormalities in respiratory function, lung edema, airway epithelial injury, sustained tissue hypoxia, e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury. And I want to put a wee kind of proviso on there that at the time that E-Valley, you know, that e-cigarette and vaping lung injury was discovered, there was a particular ingredient in those vapes, and it was a vitamin E acetate, which seemed to cause the problem, and that was taken out of vapes at that point in time as well. So that was very serious and had very serious implications for human health at that point in time. So there's other things then that might be actually found, and they're quite complicated medical conditions as well that I am not fully au fait with, because I am definitely not a medic or anything like that, but they're talking about, you know, increased inflammatory markers, cytotoxicity, oxidative stress, increased platelet and leukocyte activation and that type of thing. So what they're saying is at this point in time, they're looking at this, they're keeping an eye on it, and they're looking at increased respiratory complications and systematic inflammation and increased cardiovascular risk as well. So they have done the research. This is not my opinion, okay, and they have looked at this. It's inhaling an aerosol. So when these chemicals are heated up, and they're heated up in such a way that you're bringing them into lungs and you're putting out a plume of chemicals. Involved in that would be flavors like propylene glycol, and there may be nicotine in them. Vapor, then we need glycerine and nicotine possibly in it as well. So some vapes have been found to have formaldehyde in them and acetylide. I can't even say that. But these are carcinogens to the human species as well. Now, bearing in mind that I also want you to let you know that there are other products out there that are known carcinogens to the human species as well, such as alcohol. So I don't want to kind of raise a big fuss over these and a whole panic around them. But what I want to say to you is, look, the potential is there, and it's being watched and monitored as far as research is concerned at this moment in time. So this report that was done by our Royal Surgeons College Ireland was actually involved in this. And when they had a look at this particular research, they were looking for forecasting vaping health risks through a neural network model. To move these about to see what it says here, the prediction of flavour, pyrolysis reactions and that type of stuff. And you can find that in scientific reports as well. You can have a wee look at that in scientific reports. And it had a look at, they used an AI model and type of technique, very scientific and very difficult, for the lay person to actually understand. But their conclusions and their outcomes, said that there was a formation of many hazardous chemicals, including 127 that are classified as acute and toxic. And you can look up this research and you can read it yourself. There are 153 mentioned as health hazards, and 225 of the chemicals found in them were basically, I suppose, taken as irritants. And notably, these included a group of chemicals called volatile carbanols, VCs, which are known to pose health risks. And sources for these VCs were predicted to be the most popular in fruit and candy and dessert flavoured products. So they're really breaking down the chemicals that are in this and the potential modelling future risks around the use of these vapes and the potential that's there around us human beings actually using them. So there is the view out there that e-cigarettes are a safer option, but not that safe, okay? They're definitely a safer option than conventional cigarettes, but not that safe. And our literature, changes every now and then. I mean, we don't use the word safe when we're talking about these particular items anymore. We actually use the word less risk because we can't say anything is safe. So e-liquids are available in the Irish market with nicotine strengths of 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 and 20 milligrams. And it's also possible for users to create their own e-liquid by mixing 20 milligram nicotine shots with larger bottles of nicotine-free liquid as well, which has been known to happen. There's not enough evidence at this moment in time where e-cigarettes are an effective quit aid for smokers, while other methods such as nicotine replacement therapy and prescription drugs have been proven to be effective in helping people to quit. And that's a statement from our Irish Cancer Society in 2023. So this is not my opinion. This is where we're at with the actual research, and this is where the Irish Cancer Society have had a look at that research. And unless in 5 and 10 years' time, maybe it may be proven that they are. I don't know. But at this moment in time, this is what the research is saying, and this is very definitely what our Irish Cancer Society are saying. And with that, they're basically saying, the tried and trusted, kind of medical aids and interventions that are already there are worth pursuing because they are tried and trusted and they have worked. There is evidence to support that they do work. So it's all about your lungs. And I'm going to show you a video now. This comes from Australia, okay? And it talks about the vaping market around the world, and Australia made moves and regulations on vaping. And this video lasts about 8 to 9 minutes, but it's quite informative and it saves you listening to me all the time. You can watch the video.
Vaping is more popular than ever. It's only been around since the mid-2000s, but more and more people are using e-cigarettes, particularly children. Young people are often attracted to vapes because of its bright packaging, appealing marketing, and sweet flavours like cola, cranberry, and bubblegum. But many scientists, experts, governments, and not to mention parents are worried.
We just don't know what's coming down the track, and we're seeing a lot of canaries in the coal mine.
Overall, they do cause harms. They cause addiction. They also cause seizures and loss of consciousness. They can cause poisoning and also lung injury.
Pro-vapers say e-cigarettes are a game changer to help people quit smoking.
And we should be encouraging smokers to switch from deadly cigarettes to less risky options. And in Australia, that means vaping.
So what exactly does the science say about vaping and how bad is it for you? Most vapes work in a similar way. A battery-operated device heats up a coil, which vaporizes a liquid that the user then inhales. E-liquids usually contain substances like water, propylene glycol, or vegetable glycerin, flavourings, and nicotine. And it's some of these ingredients that scientists are worried about. Let's start with glycerin, used for the vapour, and propylene glycol for the flavours to bind to. Outside of vaping, these substances are usually considered pretty harmless, but
in that process of heating the e-liquid, the propylene glycol and the glycerol, they break down and they change into other more toxic chemicals.
The other aspect scientists are concerned about are the flavours.
So a lot of these are sort of food additives that go into things like biscuits and cakes and that sort of thing. But they're also put into these e-liquids in a liquid form, which you then heat up and inhale. And that's a very different sort of way of being exposed to these chemicals as opposed to cooking it and then eating it.
So we have over 17,000 recorded different flavour combinations of vaping, and we have no idea what the consequences of that will be down the track.
Do you guys sell disposable vapes? No, we do not sell vapes because that is against the law, and we have nothing but respect for the judicial system. I'm not a cop. Oh, sweet. Yeah, no, of course we do. I'll give you this to flip through. This is our list of flavours.
Right now in Australia, e-cigarettes with nicotine are illegal to buy without a prescription. But a study found nicotine in 60% of the Australian-made e-liquids tested. Other research found nicotine in 1 in 10 vapes analysed. And nicotine is one of the most highly addictive substances we know of.
Time to quit vaping.
When you vape nicotine, it goes through your lungs, travels through your bloodstream and into your brain in seconds. Once nicotine reaches the reward pathways of the brain, it unlocks and attaches itself to receptors. This releases a pleasure molecule called dopamine, making you feel good for a short time. The more you use nicotine products, the more receptors are unlocked, making you crave more. As your body adapts, you need more nicotine to get the same effect, creating a tolerance.
Nicotine can affect the ability to concentrate, it can affect memory, it can affect mood, and it also means that people are in the cycle of addiction.
What flavour is this? That is so good. Okay, no, I think I'm addicted.
What complicates this even further is that more young people are vaping while their brains are still developing.
Principals of primary and high school students are continually telling me and my colleagues that vaping is their biggest behavioural challenge that they face in their schools.
8 teens were hospitalized with lung damage in the past month.
Locally, doctors say they've seen an increase in teens getting sick from vaping.
In 2019, doctors in the US started to see young patients who'd been vaping showing pneumonia-like symptoms.
Doctors say the 8 young people came to the hospital with extreme coughs, fatigue, even struggling to breathe.
The condition became known as EVALI, e-cigarette or vaping-associated lung injury. Symptoms include shortness of breath, coughing and chest pain, as well as nausea, stomach problems, fatigue, fever, and weight loss.
I remember asking them, like, is he going to recover from this? Like, I can't lose my son. I feel like people need to be aware that this can happen. And if sharing my story can help one person's life, then it's totally worth it.
Like so many things to do with e-cigarettes, scientists aren't exactly sure what causes the condition.
In a big development concerning vaping, it has been making people sick across the country, and now health experts may have some idea why. Turns out products with marijuana all had one chemical in common.
They've found a link with e-liquids, including vitamin E acetate, which is often used alongside THC, the chemical that creates the high from marijuana. The New York Times estimates in 3 years, there's been more than 2,500 cases of EVALI, with 59 deaths in the US. In Australia, EVALI cases are extremely rare. Vitamin E acetate is one of a number of substances that can't be used in vapes here, but authorities say we still need to be cautious.
We have seen some episodes of lung injury in Australia. That's not seem to be related to THC. And we also know that 1 in 8 cases of that EVALI or lung injury was attributed to normal sort of standard e-cigarettes.
Despite all the risks, vaping has some strong supporters in the medical community.
Vaping not only helps smokers quit, it also reduces the risk to them while they continue to vape.
The key argument is that vaping isn't as dangerous as smoking cigarettes, which all experts agree is extremely harmful.
For people who are smokers who use e-cigarettes to switch completely and promptly to e-cigarettes, that is, they quit normal smoking completely, it's likely that they will be beneficial, bearing in mind that we don't know the long-term effects.
But the evidence on whether vaping does in fact help you quit smoking is mixed. A review of studies from ANU found limited evidence that e-cigarettes were effective in helping people quit.
Most people who quit smoking without any assistance at all, cold turkey.
The review also found non-smokers who took up vaping were 3 times as likely to take up cigarette smoking.
If you use e-cigarettes, you do become addicted to nicotine generally, and that's the active component in tobacco smoking.
But a more recent review of studies from the UK found evidence that quit rates for e-cigarettes with nicotine were higher compared to standard nicotine replacement therapies. While the research continues, experts agree people who aren't already smoking shouldn't take up vaping.
We don't know if vaping is going to be worse than smoking. Probably not much is worse than smoking. It's like comparing, Mount Everest to K2 to the Matterhorn or to sea level. Sea level is where things are really healthy. Everything above that is something that you really want to avoid.
A survey of 700 Australian teenagers found 70% of teens didn't buy their own vape directly.
There is no other product that is being sold like this in such an illegal way.
What we do need now is real enforcement of the regulations and making sure that we are actually seeing use of e-cigarettes that's directed towards quitting smoking and not this widespread use that we're seeing, particularly among children.
There's so much about the impact of vaping that we still don't know. It's certainly not a good thing and not without risks.
Okay, so I think it was a very balanced video there, and it basically describes, the whole way through the incident that we had in the world at one stage in America, where there was the lung injury and the illnesses experienced. And as well as that, it's quite balanced in the way that if it does help an adult get away from cigarette smoking, then the adult can be made very aware of the fact that we don't know what the long-term implications of the use of this actually is. But we're very sure about the harms that are experienced from smoking for a long time. So what actually happens with these type of products is that they burst onto the market without any rigorous medical or scientific research. Now, the same is happening in the drug world. There are chemical components that basically burst onto the market. We don't know what they are or what their side effects are. And there's actually, these new psychoactive substances, and there could be 900 to 1,000 of them actually monitored by the EU at this point in time. And we really don't know what the long-term effects of these new types of things are. And, let's just be realistic about that. If they're only here about 20 years or whatever, we won't know for another 10, 15 years what the long-term outcome may be. Okay. What are the symptoms of that EVALI, that condition that people experienced, and the fact that there was, over 2,000 people hospitalized, and there were some deaths, 69 deaths recorded with it as well. They experienced respiratory symptoms, including cough, shortness of breath, and chest pain. They had gastrointestinal symptoms, including nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, or diarrhea. And then as well, some non-specific constitutional symptoms like fever, chills, or weight loss. In February 2020, the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention, they confirmed these cases, and they confirmed the deaths that were actually attributed to vaping, and that those vapes contained that vitamin E acetate, and that was the chemical that caused the problem. So key findings reported by the HRB, that's our own health research board. They're saying at this moment in time, e-cigarettes are no more effective than approved regulated nicotine replacement therapies to help people stop smoking. However, e-cigarettes as a smoking cessation device are not regulated or approved, and their safety is not known beyond 12 months. Now, further than that, as the video mentioned, there are further studies being done, and these further studies are supporting the fact that it does help people get away from cigarette smoking. So it's important to keep the balance of information and to further research yourself, on these particular topics. Key findings from the HRB at that point in time said adolescents who use e-cigarettes were 3 to 5 times more likely to start smoking tobacco cigarettes compared to those who never use e-cigarettes. And that's where the concern is. So if you've got a young person taking up the use of vapes and it leading them on to actually smoking cigarettes after that, it's almost a reverse of all the good work that has been done for many years when we've tried to, make sure that our young people aren't influenced into cigarette smoking. These e-cigarettes, may have acute effects, including poisonings, burns, blast injuries, lung injury, and asthmatic attacks. Some of the chemicals in e-cigarettes are thought to cause tissue and cell damage, and some are agents that may cause cancer in the long term. And the long-term health effects beyond 24 months are not researched. And that's from the Health Research Board as well, and you can look that up on their website. Dual use of both e-cigarettes and conventional tobacco cigarettes wasn't less harmful than smoking tobacco cigarettes alone, which raises questions about the smoking reduction benefit of e-cigarettes. We may find in years to come, it may be a very helpful intervention or it may not. We don't know at this point in time. Anecdotally, people will say it is helping them stay away from cigarettes. And what I'll say about that is that every adult is an autonomous human being, and it's completely up to them the choices that they make and the decisions that they make as far as their health behaviour is concerned. But if there's any queries on any products that come onto the market, then we do have a duty of care to protect our younger people around them. So legislation was developed, the Public Health Tobacco Products and Nicotine Inhalant Products Act 2002 to 2023, and those new laws prohibit the sale of those nicotine inhalant products to anybody under 18. They prohibit the sale of tobacco products and nicotine inhalant products at events for children. Those vending machines that were talked about at one point, they are going to be outlawed as well. You're not going to be able to just go up to a self-service point of sale for these actual products. They have introduced a strict licensing system for the retail sale of tobacco products and nicotine inhalant products. And a very short time ago, any age could actually purchase a vape, and this new legislation is out to control that now. Prohibit the advertising of nicotine inhalant products around schools and on public transport, and provide additional enforcement powers to the Environmental Health Service for measures in the bill and for all previous tobacco control acts. So really and truly, it is a time for cautions. That's what we're saying. Look, whatever evidence we have at this point in time, our evidence is now saying, let's be a little bit cautious about this. Let's know the risks, just the same as we know the risks when we get into our car, the same as we know the risks when we consume alcohol, and the same as we know the risks when we take any type of drugs at all, that we know the risks that are involved in the use of these products. Professor Donal O'Shea, Professor of Chemistry and Health Department, stated, "It is plausible that we're on the cusp of a new wave of chronic diseases that will emerge 15 to 20 years from now due to the exposures. We hope this research will help people make more informed choices and contribute to the conversation on the potential long-term health risks and the regulation of vaping, which research suggests should be comprehensive." So what they're saying is keep researching this, keep looking at this topic, and be alert to the risks that may be posed from it. The World Health Organization suggests that e-cigarettes cannot be considered as a viable method to quit smoking due to a lack of evidence, and that's where the World Health Organization sits on the issue at the minute. And what they did on the 14th of December is that they made a call to action. And the call to action in e-cigarettes notes that urgent and strong decisive action to prevent the uptake of e-cigarettes, which are harmful to health, should be taken to protect children as well as non-smokers and minimise health harms to the population. So you probably have heard of some, very difficult situations that have occurred through the contents of some vapes that made it into the hands of some of our young people. And this is just one of the examples that made its way, into the hands of our young people, as a lot of different substances do. In 2021, a new semi-synthetic cannabinoid emerged in the US drug market called HHC, and related semi-synthetic cannabinoids, SSCs, are rapidly evolving areas with relatively limited information currently available on them. So in the whole drug world, these new semi-synthetic and synthetic cannabinoids are evolving and unfortunately find their way into some products, and some people, may have had severe health consequences through their use. This is synthesized cannabidiol, and it's extracted from low THC cannabis plants, hemp, and HHC is the first semi-synthetic cannabinoid to be reported in the EU. So we're going to see, I see this kind of, over the last 16 years, I see these new products coming on stream all of the time. And unfortunately, these type of substances, if they make their way into, different types of products like, your gummies and things that you can purchase and into vapes and that, there may be health consequences because of their use. There's no regulation on this particular development of these particular products until legislation catches up with them. In 2016, the Surgeon General USA concluded that secondhand emissions contain nicotine ultrafine particles, flavorants such as diacetyl, a chemical linked to serious lung disease, volatile organic compounds such as benzene, which is found in car exhaust, and heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead. And I'm going to put a cautionary piece around that. Basically, what they're saying there is that this is, kind of, in some ways, having a look at the chemicals that are involved in this, and, I suppose what impact that might have on others as well. But there's no conclusive, strong evidence around a severe impact of that. And I'm going to put the word on there yet. Okay. But at this moment in time, we don't know what the risks are. In a paper by Constantino in 2024, he said the association between secondhand exposure to e-cigarettes at home and exacerbations in children with asthma. So there's a consideration to make. You can have a look at this paper as well. And that consideration is, look, if we want to be careful, okay, it is worthwhile considering that if we do have someone at home with some respiratory difficulty, then basically we might consider not vaping in their environment, just to be careful and just to be considerate of them. I want to bring your attention now to two very good pieces of information that are housed on the HSE website. And one of them is a brand new production. It's only been produced this year. And it's a HSE information booklet for parents, guardians, and young people. A very comprehensive guide around vaping and e-cigarettes. And then we also have HSE Health and Wellbeing information and guidance on e-cigarettes for schools. And these are widely available on the HSE website. You can type them into your phone or your laptop or whatever, and you can download them and further read on the whole area of vaping. So it was developed, we have a youth prevention toolkit as well on e-cigarettes and other nicotine delivery systems. Great to download that, all easily available. And this document was developed in 2024 by HSE Tobacco Free Ireland programme. And this project was supported by the National Youth Council of Ireland, for OIGA, and the Western Region Drug and Alcohol Task Force, the HSE Health Promotion Departments from CHO 8 and 9, and the HSE Education and Training Programme. Another very worthwhile document. Getting your hands on it, download it and read it. And again, I suppose it really is around choice and consequence, and it really is around this small amount of information that I'm giving you right now. Probably you'll lose a lot of that in your memory after finishing this session, but those resources are available online and can be sent to you if you want. And the references of the information that I pulled together to have this session implemented, you can have a look at those pieces of research as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing here now, and I can see my colleagues, Michelle and Pamela, you're here. So we've got some questions, have we, Pam? Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Christina. That was a really informative presentation. So if anyone has any questions, if they'd like to just put them into the Q&A and we can put them to Christina. So we will be getting wrapped up in the next less than 10 minutes, but if anyone has any questions, please put them in. A question that has come in here, Christina, what is popcorning of the lung?
Okay, popcorning of the lung. I'm just going to actually get the proper information on it because I don't want to just come off as if I know about it, but I don't know about
Take your
it.
time.
So it is a condition.
Also, just while you're looking for that, Christina, if you want, I'll just let people know I put some websites into the chat there as well. Just the Parent Hub website and the parenting platform as well, just the links to them as well, just so you should see them there in the chat if anyone wants to just save them links as well. So sorry, Christina, I just thought it.
Yeah, it's grand. I suppose what they call it, popcorning of the lung, is a respiratory condition that affects the bronchioles of your lungs. Okay, the bronchioles are the smallest airways in your lungs, and if you have this condition, your airways actually become inflamed and then scarred because of inhaling toxic substances or from infections. So that's what popcorning of the lung actually is. And you can look that up yourself as well, you know. So that information came from the Cleveland Clinic. So if you type in Cleveland Clinic and popcorning of the lung, you'll be able to find out more about that.
Okay. Has anyone else any questions that they'd like to ask Christina before we get wrapped up?
Hopefully I'll be able to answer them.
Yeah. No, there's, let me see. I think that might be all, Christine. I think you've covered so much in the presentation as well.
I suppose the important message is this, okay? Realistically, our lungs are not designed to inhale, you know, chemicals into them, right? They're designed for us to be able to breathe and to be able to deal with some of the things in our environment as well. So when we're doing this type of thing, I suppose it's good to be informed of the risks. And just to let you know that I smoked from I was 16 until I was 19. Okay, so I'm not anti-vapor, anti-smoker or anything like that. It's really understanding the risks, our choices and our consequences from our choices, and giving you a balanced piece of information for you to go and make your own mind up as to whether the risks are worth it. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. If you've never smoked before, you know, is it worth vaping? If you're using it for coming away from cigarettes, you know, there are 7,000 harmful chemicals in cigarettes and maybe up to 2 in vapes, that type of thing. So go and further read on it because this is a very short session. And just, you know, understand that no matter what we do, we're actually taking risks. You know, we know what's healthy for us and we know what's not healthy for us. And we choose those behaviors every single day. You know, we eat the wrong foods, we drink alcohol, we, you know, use vapes, that type of thing. That's what we're like as human beings. But it's knowing, you know, the choices and the consequences from our choices and being realistic and open and honest with ourselves around those choices and consequences.
Okay, not a question, but thank you. Somebody, an attendee said, and very helpful information.
Thanks for that, because it takes a bit of work to pull it together. And you know, you're all very welcome to read any of the papers that I've read, pulling it together. If you get in contact with us, we'll definitely provide that for you. Okay.
And all them links then to them publications, they're available.
Yeah, but we can.
For anyone to download.
Yeah, these links now that are in the webinar chat, yeah, they are there. And again, get in contact with me for, you know, a copy of the academic papers that I have read, you know, to pull this information together. And what I will say is this: as we move along, there'll be more research, there will be more outcomes, and we will have more knowledge as we move along in the decades. And we're just at a point where this is what we have and this is what we know. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. I think we can wrap it up for this evening. So, Christina, thank you very, very much for putting all this together. I know it was a lot of work to put it all together for us, so we really do appreciate it. And it was really, as I say, really informative.